But what I think we can really take from Hannah that we should do is that we need to create the conditions for the prayer to prosper. While you're waiting, after amen, you need to create the conditions for the prayer to prosper. But be careful. This is where bad theology creeps in. It is true what I said. We can and should do that. But this has the potential for some troubling things to arise. Most importantly, I think, I would never want you to blame or congratulate yourself for that prayer to be answered or not answered. What do I mean? Just because God might have said no, that might be an answer to your prayer. It's not your fault that you didn't create the conditions, right? We believe that God's will be done regardless of what we do. And so I would never want anyone, and that happens all the time in churches across the land, that you didn't have enough faith, right? And it gets real dark, right? When we talk about things like mental illness, it's like you weren't healed because you didn't have enough faith, or you must have had some sin in your life. That's not what we do here. I don't want you to blame yourself. So when I say create the conditions for the prayer to prosper, if you end up trying to blame yourself or congratulate yourself, my prayer was answered because I'm the best. I create such good conditions. Seeds grow. No, we don't do that. That'll get you in trouble. Secondly, I don't want you to assume that a positive outcome is God's will or God's answer to your prayer. Are you tracking with me? Let me use my own story for an example. But anyways, we have to get into some stuff. I was asked to apply to adjunct profess some sociology classes at Chico State. And I was very excited to do that. And I went through the interview process. I created the conditions, right? And I was praying about this. And then in the midst of praying about it, I said, is this God what really wants me to do? It's part-time. I'm not getting a different job, y'all. I just might do this, but for sociology, my undergrad. But as I was praying, my first prayer was like, well, if they offer me the job, then it must be God's will. And I want to assume now that's not true, right? Just because there's a positive thing that happened, and I mean positive in that like it might be what I want, or I might have received the opportunity. I'm now praying, like, is it your will, even if they say yes, right? Just because they said yes doesn't mean it's God's yes. And so I would be concerned that if we are creating the conditions for the prayer to prosper, that we would end up with a theology that just says, well, if the opportunity arises or if something happens, then it must be God's door opening. And that, again, is not scriptural or theological. These beloved people might not be expressing the will of God. And so no longer is my prayer, hey, if this door opens, I'll walk through it. Now the prayer is like, is this really from you? And let me sit with this. By the way, they offered me the job on Friday. And now I'm like, I wish you would have said no. That would have been so much easier in this prayer journey. So come springtime, I may or may not be professing sociology. We shouldn't assume just because we got what we worked for and wanted that it is God's will for us. You feel good? Now let's move on with the point. Oh, no, it's like, likewise, not getting it doesn't mean we failed. It's not our fault, right? We didn't lack faith. God isn't punishing us. It's not how this works. It may be sometimes, but I'm never in a place to say it is this time or it is all the time, right? We don't want to, it's just not the understanding I have of God as revealed to us in Jesus Christ. That being said, Hannah created the conditions for the prayer to prosper. Are you tracking with me? I'm not reading it. Hannah created the conditions for the prayer to prosper. She could have waited for a Mary situation and just had, a baby just miraculously appear in her womb. But she created the conditions for the prayer to prosper. I'm going to get off of this, but I need she did, right? She took the steps to make sure that her prayer was answered.